Dale Folwell, CPA, was sworn in as State Treasurer of North Carolina in January of 2017. As the keeper of the public purse, Treasurer Folwell is responsible for a $124 billion state pension fund that provides retirement benefits for more than 900,000 teachers, law enforcement officers, and other public workers. Under his leadership, the pension plan was rated among the top 5 highest funded in the country and won accolades for proactive management and funding discipline. In 2021, the state's coveted AAA bond rating was reaffirmed by every major rating agency, making North Carolina one of only 13 states in the country to hold that distinction. He also oversees the state health plan, which provides medical and pharmaceutical benefits to more than 750,000 current and retired public employees, and is the largest purchaser of healthcare in North Carolina. He was first elected to public office as a member of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education. He brought his problem-solving skills to the North Carolina General Assembly in 2004, where he served 4 terms in the House of Representatives, including 1 term as Speaker Pro Tem. Treasurer Folwell began his career as a blue-collar worker and became a certified public accountant and investment advisor after earning bachelor's and master's degrees in accounting from UNC Greensboro. Married for more than 30 years, he and his wife, Cynthia, have 3 children and live in Winston-Salem. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Treasurer Dale Folwell with our deepest appreciation for your presence here today, sir.
Thank you, Kevin. Can you hear me okay? Great. It's great to be with you. I think it was July of 2020 when I last spoke to the Dilworth Rotary Club, and it's great to be back with you. I want to say now what I said then, that over the next few minutes, I could get emotional. Even on this call today, there are things that are worth getting emotional about, and especially things that are happening in our world and in my world as the keeper of the public purse. I'll not be getting political for 2 main reasons. It violates the spirit of Rotary, but more importantly, that with everything that's dividing our society right now, which is political party and race and gender, none of that exists at the Treasurer's office. We focus on the green, Green. The blood that runs through me is Quaker. And if you know anything about the Quaker religion, you know that one of the spices of being a Quaker is to be fair and just. And that's what we have an opportunity to do every day as the keeper of your public purse, is to be fair and just. What that means is that we don't pick and choose which laws to apply or who to apply them to. And that because our loyalty and duty of care is only to those that teach, protect, otherwise serve, and taxpayers like them who help fund these enormous plans. I will be getting highly mathematical. So if math makes you nauseous, you probably should get credit and zoom out now. I want to tell you that we just, since I was with you last, we have managed the Treasurer's office through the most volatile period in the modern era. So over the next few minutes, my comments will be a little bit like a country music song. There'll be some good verses and some bad verses, and then we're going to end you up on a high note. So let's get started with the fact that we are, as you just heard, one of the 13 states that's been able to maintain our AAA bond rating. That is built on top of a chassis of having one of the best funded pension plans in the United States. As you just heard from Kevin, the pension plan just topped $124 billion. So when I report everything to you in the next few minutes, it's really important for you to understand that even though these words are coming from my mouth, I'm standing on the shoulders of a lot of hardworking people at the Treasurer's office who keep us in the check delivery business. And there are members of the Dilworth Rotary Club who are those that are or have taught, protected, or otherwise served. So the pension plan's in great shape. It's nearly 90% funded. That compared to the South Carolina plan, 64% funded, Alabama 66. One of the Kentucky government retirement systems is only 30% funded. So, having a well-funded pension plan means that those that teach, protect, and serve with all the angst and anxiety they have in being a public servant these days, worrying about the security of this pension plan is not something they should think about. So as well funded as this plan is, it does have three headwinds. And as you hear me speak of these very quickly, just understand that I know that these three things are blessings in everyday life. The first one is low interest rates. Low interest rates are great for investing in your mind or buying a car or building a business or buying a house. But low interest rates are not good when you have about $50 billion sitting in things that earn interest. And by the way, I failed to mention the 124 billion pension plan is not only one of the largest pools of public money in the world, it only represents half of what we do at the Treasurer's Office. We're managing nearly $250 billion at the Treasurer's Office. And to put that in context, that's nearly 10 times the size of the state budget of North Carolina. So let's go back to the pension plan. Low interest rates are great for individuals, but they're not good for plans that have money that invest in things that earn interest. The second headwind is earlier retirements. These are blessings for those that have that option, but it sort of leads into the third headwind, which is the best blessing of all, which is increased life expectancies. It's so amazing that when I was in high school in the late 70s in Winston-Salem, this pension plan that has nearly 1 million people on it right now, it was paying out benefits to just 300 people who were over the age of 90. Last month, it was 7,400 people over the age of 90. So you want to know why this pension plan is funded as it is and as secure as it is, was never intended for interest rates to be this low, people to retire this early, or to live this long. This should be worth some happy bucks in your next meeting. News for the females who are on the call. Our actuaries have now told us for the first time in state history that a female who would come to work for the state, for example, when she was 18, 21, or 23 years old, we're fully expecting that female to draw more retirement checks than paychecks. And this is an actuarial thing that's never existed before. So the pension plan's in great shape. We just got scored in the 0 percentile. It's the reason I struggled so much in school and was a blue collar worker for a third of my life. And I thought 0 percentile was a good place to be. It is a good place to be when you're being scored on the efficiency of your pension plan. And so I stand on the shoulders of a lot of hardworking people at the Treasurer's Office who have partnered with me as we have cut $500 million in Wall Street fees out of the cost of this pension plan. Why should you care about that if you're not on the plan? Because any dollar that's inefficiently spent, whether it's on healthcare, pharmaceuticals, or Wall Street fees, is a dollar that can never be saved or spent for benefits to keep these plans solvent. Pension plan's in great shape. The defined contribution plan just got scored in the 0 percentile. It's nearly $15 billion, and that's our 401 and 457 plan. So for as good as these plans are, and as good news as that is, breaking all records as far as the 401, 457, the pension plan, as well as the AAA bond rating, the state health plan continues to have a $34 billion unfunded healthcare liability. Now, I want to be clear. This is where I might get emotional, not as emotional as I was in hearing. But when I talk about the healthcare cartel, I want to be very clear that I'm not talking about the people in the third week of March of 2020 who saved my life when I was one of the early contractors of COVID. You may recall that story that my wife sometimes accuses me of speaking as if I'm a doctor because my initials are DR Folwell. But I know enough about medicine to know that when your blood oxygen level is 83, while you're consuming 8 liters of oxygen, you're in bad shape. And I was one of those folks in early March when no one ever did what to do with people like me. No loss of taste or smell, never. No temperature, never. No GI issues, never. No headache, never. No shortness of breath. I've never had those things. But my body was rejecting oxygen. So when I talk about the healthcare cartel, I'm referring to the multi-million-dollar executives who run these multi-billion-dollar corporations who disguise themselves as nonprofits. And the reason that should matter to your Rotary Club is that these corporations who disguise themselves as nonprofits don't pay or fund the things that your Dilworth Rotary Club has always cared about: public education, public safety, public works, and public roads. And because they don't pay sales tax, they don't pay income tax, and they don't pay property tax. So we're still attempting to get rid of the secrecy of healthcare in North Carolina. As you may recall from July of 2020, when I spoke to you, when I sent a request into UNC Healthcare about what we were paying for healthcare for those that teach, protect, and serve, this is what was sent to me. The complete master charge list was redacted. This is an industry that has a product that people don't want to consume. Dave Miller doesn't want to consume this product because that would mean he wasn't sick. When people try to inquire as to what things cost, they're told it's not their business. And when they don't pay for something they didn't want to consume, when no one would tell them what it cost, then they have their credit rating destroyed. And this is where I can probably get emotional again. This is different than the 60s and 70s when I was growing up. Credit scores mattered, but not like today. You know, credit scores determine what you pay for one of these. They determine whether you get the benefit of the doubt when you're trying to rent shelter. Obviously determine what the interest rate you pay when you go to buy a house. And for your newest Rotarian who talks about financial literacy, she knows exactly how important credit ratings are in terms of the upward mobility and joy of achievement for our citizens. So as we go forward, we're still trying to get the hospitals to publish their prices. Yesterday was Senior Citizen Day at Harris Teeter. If you're as old as I am, that's when you shop because you get a 5% discount. I think the people of this country have proven that if you give them the tools to compare quality and price, that they have the ability to do so. So as we move forward, the reason this is important, as I said earlier, I inherited a $34 billion unfunded healthcare liability, and it's not getting any better, even in spite of some of the great contracts we've been able to sign at the Treasurer's Office. And the reason is the cost of healthcare is going up at twice the inflation rate and twice the rate that we're getting funded from the General Assembly. So that's why this is so important. If you want to put that $34 billion in context, Dave Middleberg at Business NC did it a few years ago. When you look at our unfunded liability for healthcare in North Carolina, it puts us a few years ago, according to Pew Research, right behind the state of Illinois in terms of its insolvency. So as I move forward, I just want to tell you that I normally wear a lapel pin that says NC on it. Obviously, that stands for North Carolina, but it also stands for nothing compares. Except for the insolvency of our health plan, I wouldn't trade places with any other state treasurer in the United States. And I just want to remind you that I'm standing on the shoulders of a lot of hardworking state employees during COVID over the last 2 years when I was with you last, who keep us in the check delivery business. We're spending about $850 million every 30 days at the Treasurer's Office, just for pension benefit, gross benefit, healthcare benefit, pharmaceutical benefit, and principal and interest on the debt. Being in the check delivery business means that those folks that receive those benefits, that it's always a blessing. But unfortunately, your community and Forest City and other communities across North Carolina, I've had to be in the check delivery business most recently for those law enforcement officers, whether it's Maya Goodwin, or Officer Master Trooper Horton in Forest City, who have lost their lives in the line of duty. And whether it's Maya, who mother, wife, just gotten back off maternity leave, or Trooper Horton, who had 6 children in Forest City, a highway patrol officer. I just want to let you know, whether it's them or anyone else that we could talk about on this call, that it's my belief that people pass away twice. Once when their spirit leaves heavenly earth, and unfortunately as a father, I've seen that. But the second time is when the last living person remembers who they were. So as we talk about these folks who have lost their lives in the line of duty, or in very poor health right now, let's just keep remembering that as long as we keep bringing up their names, they're going to still be with us. So very briefly, I just want to thank you all for being Rotarians. It's unimaginable what we could accomplish if all public servants would just, if they're going to show up and they're going to stand up, if they can't do that by attacking the problems and not attacking people, I just hope they would shut up, or at least just adopt the 4-way test and the motto of service above self. That'd be a huge accomplishment for our society. Unfortunately, I've never seen the country as divided as it is today. We have a hate complex going on where people must be making hundreds of millions or billions of dollars off keeping people separated in our country. And I just want to tell you, as the keeper of your public purse, people don't care what political party I or anybody else in our office is a member of. They are facing the highest levels of job, food, health, and educational insecurity and uncertainty, and they just want somebody to fix their problems. So as I close and take questions, I just want to remind you about nccash.com. When I was with you last, we presented $2,500 to the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers paid it forward to the Domestic Abuse Alliance there in Charlotte, which I think you support. The Domestic Abuse Alliance had money at NC Cash that they didn't know about. 3 of the 5 reporters who came and covered the story, including Jim Morrill, had money at NC Cash. We just gave $5,000 to Charlotte Motor Speedway. They paid it forward to Speedway Children's Charities. They had money at nccash.com. We just broke all records, sending out over $75 million to nccash.com. And some of these charities that your Rotary Club and Dave and others have been involved in, Salvation Army, Crisis Control, Habitat for Humanity, you can go to nccash.com and punch up all the hospice. You can punch up all those names on this website. And I guarantee you that you will find something that not only you and this club are entitled to as an individual under your name, maiden name, kids, parents, or whatever, but also the nonprofits or businesses that exist in your area. So I encourage you to do that. And I gave this idea to the Kernersville Rotary Club the other day, the Dilworth Rotary Club, and get sponsorships. And you go by and you actually ask people for money. Maybe a good idea for you is before you go to visit a business about donating to the Dilworth Rotary Club's event, whatever that happens to be, as a sponsor, go to nccash.com and look up their name, and you'll be shocked of how many of your sponsors have money sitting at our treasurer's office that you can help them push the button and claim that money, and then maybe they'll use part of that for sponsorship. That's the best happy buck that I can give you today. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Hey, Kelly, I've got a question.
I got a question too.
Taylor, you go first.
Thank you, Treasurer Folwell. I had a question. The just recently, the No Surprises Act finally came into play, and as someone who was not able to benefit from that and had a surprise bill come in last year, I'm wondering how you're working with that to help those that you provide financial support for. How are y'all implementing that, the No Surprises Act?
Unfortunately, well, let me give you a little bit of history really quickly. We sounded the alarm on transparent healthcare 3.5 years ago. The former president issued an executive order, which is in this stack, that talks about transparent healthcare. Now, this is something the former president and the current president agree on. The President Biden took the executive order that President Trump signed on transparent healthcare and strengthened the penalties for not abiding by it. But then when Google and Apple tried to figure out how this is actually being operationalized and implemented through the healthcare organizations of this country, even Google and Apple could not figure out what the costs are. So I don't mean to be inelegant, but how in the hell is a school teacher who's working 40 hours a week in the classroom, 15 hours a week at home, 20 hours a week, maybe has a second job, raising their family? If Google and Apple can't figure it out, how in the hell are they going to figure it out? So I'm fully behind this issue. And it doesn't matter if Harlan Bowles, who wore this very lapel pin, the previous treasurer, talked about this 37 years ago. Bill Gates talked about this 14 years ago. Alter Beth Wood, who you should have come and be a guest presenter, by the way, about Zoom. Alter Beth Wood talked about this 12 years ago. Warren Buffett talked about this 4 years ago. Senator Elizabeth Warren in the presidential debate 2 years ago said that surprise billing and costs associated with medical issues are the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States. Everyone knows that something's wrong. And I just want to tell you, this is just not in my stomach or in my heart or in my mind. Being on the right side of history on this issue about healthcare access, healthcare quality, and healthcare cost, it's in my marrow. And I'm not going to back down, and I'm not going to look the other way.
Kevin, do you want to go? And then I think Gene raised his hand as well. So
Okay. Treasurer Folwell, many thanks to you. You are I just love your passion, sir, and your references to Rotary and your remarks are heartfelt. We certainly appreciate that. I wanted to ask you about two things, actually, the hospital cartels that you mentioned. Is that something that, first of all, is that true for every state? Do they enjoy that nonprofit status in every state in the country?
They do. And actually, we just partnered with Johns Hopkins. They get a little ticklish when I leave the S off John.
Yeah.
They're very sensitive about that.
Yes, they are.
Johns Hopkins University just came into North Carolina and looked at all of the the publicly available financial records and determined that the nonprofits in North Carolina, this is on our website, nctreasury.com, were receiving nearly $2 billion of tax benefit by not paying sales, income, and property tax, and only providing $600 million worth of charity care.
Wow.
When this was set up 45 years ago through the Internal Revenue Service, the charity care was supposed to offset in GHAL with the tax benefit. It's wildly out of proportion right now.
Wow. Thank you for that. My second question is, you mentioned the solvency rate for North Carolina being in the 90% as far as the pension fund is concerned, and some other states that aren't doing as well. Do y'all ever talk? Can you like give Kentucky or some of those other states some tips on what they're doing? You ever have brainstorming sessions like that?
We do occasionally, but the Treasurer's Office of North Carolina is so uniquely structured. There's not a one like it in the world. I'm the sole fiduciary of this plan.
Wow.
And for example, in California, you have the CalSTRS board and the CalPERS board. So we're very uniquely situated, but I can tell you, as a former garbage collector and motorcycle mechanic, I'm the least likely person to ever be the state treasurer of North Carolina. And I didn't get here by not seeking new information or taking an opportunity to look at the information that's already in my head. So I think many of these states obviously are very envious of North Carolina's pension plan. But it's very important for me to tell you that I'm standing on the shoulders of all the previous treasurers who have never pretended to have a crystal ball or gamble with these pension assets. What that means is that when the stock market goes roaring up, we don't do quite as well as they do. And when the stock market collapsed like it did in 2020 between St. Patrick's Day and July 4th, we're one of the best performing funds in the world. So there's nowhere I won't go to find out how to do our jobs better.
Well, I want to thank you again for speaking today and for your service to the citizens of North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Is
Jean
that
and
it,
then
Ms. Jen?
Quanta.
Hey, Quanta.
Okay. Who's going? Me, Gene, or Quanta?
Go ahead, Jean.
Okay, Treasurer Folwell, thank you and congratulations on what you're doing. And also, I find your background's interesting, garbage collector and motorcycle mechanic. And you moved on to
Yes.
treasurer. Okay, great. Now, you mentioned credit scores nowadays. Actually, it seemed like they're really causing a lot of problems. You said in the 60s and 70s they existed, but they weren't paid attention to like today. And in the 50s, when I was growing up, I worked in the dry cleaners, and the town and the city in that town, the credit bureau published a booklet, and each month they send loose leaf pages of how people paid. Like if they paid on time, they got a P. If they paid on an installment contract, they got an A, and that seemed to work very good. Nowadays, I've turned in sometimes to the Financial Services Committee of the House of Representatives, and they've had some committee meetings about this stuff, and they're really credit scores are causing problems. Like, for example, one of the lawyers that was on that said that a doctor with a DWI has a high credit score, pays less insurance than somebody that had a lower score that never had a DWI or any kind of a ticket. My question is, do you think that we ought to just get rid of credit scores and use another system?
I think that we should eliminate the impact of anything dealing with a product like medical services where people would rather not have consumed it. That should be eliminated from anyone's credit score.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
Quanta.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Mr. Folwell. This is Quanta. I have been doing some research on comparison between rural poverty versus urban poverty, and seeing that the collective power of the urban poor is much higher and they do get a lot more resources than do the rural ones, because they're kind of spread out and their voices are not heard. And I did research international, national, as well as state level. Does that relate to what you are doing, and how can we ensure that the rural poverty, regardless of their ethnic origin, is much, much higher? The
Yeah,
poverty in rural area.
that's a great point. I've seen some of your work on that. And let me just say to you that the census data just came out. We know that we have a strong torso that starts in Charlotte and comes up through the Triad and over the Triangle, and then obviously in Wilmington and the Asheville area. But as the keeper of the public purse and the state treasurer of North Carolina and the chair of the local government commission, which regulates over 1,300 entities that need water and sewer services, counties, cities, universities, and the like, I am deeply concerned about the toes and the fingers of North Carolina and some of the forearms. We can't just pay attention to the torso. We have to pay attention to everything. And as I think I said back to your group in July, there's two cities on the southern border of North Carolina. One's called Charlotte, one's called Charlotte. In some places, they're actually pronounced similarly. Excuse me, there's actually spelled similarly. But I can tell you there's a big difference in the challenges that people are facing in Charlotte versus Charlotte. And more importantly, to what you just said, Quanta, there are elements of poverty that are reminiscent of Charlotte inside the city of Charlotte. We also have to be cognizant of that too. Excuse me. One more question.
I just want to make a very short comment that I consider the rural population, since they are the ones that bring food at our tables, they are the heart of the state, not just toes. Thank you.
No. What I meant is that we can't just focus on the urban areas. We have to focus on the legs and the arms and the toes and the fingers and the entire body.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I actually have one question before we wrap. And I'm not quite sure, Treasurer Fowl, if how this ties into you and your job, but I was hearing a friend of mine yesterday talk about someone whose family member passed away recently, old age and some other heart issues, but their death certificate was recorded as COVID death.
Yes.
And so the child, obviously, when they realized what had happened, went back to and said, this needs to be changed. They did not die from COVID. And then they found out that every COVID death, they get like $28,000 or $38,000, the hospitals do. So my question is, do you know, is this actually a real thing that's going on? And how is the state or either the government, because it could be coming out of Medicare or Medicaid, and I'm not quite sure where the money's coming from, but how are the governments addressing this kind of fraud?
I don't know much about sports other than motorcycle racing. I've been racing 45 years. But I do recall an interview one time with Coach K when they asked him about his courtside manner. And all of us know what I'm talking about. And Coach K looked at the interviewer and said, there's some things that happen right in front of your eyes that are worth getting mad about. What you just said is happening right in front of our eyes, and it's worth getting mad about. And my only comment back to you is that I'm aware of it, and stay tuned.
Thank you. All right. If you have any additional questions for Treasurer Folwell, if you want to put them in the chat, and if he has time, he can stay after and answer them. If not, maybe we could get the answers to those via email or some other method. But thank you, Treasurer Folwell, for your time today. We appreciate it. It's a tough time to be alive.
Yeah, sometimes people comment about my glasses, and I want to tell you why I'm wearing these. Is that we run the ABLE program, which stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience, which is a way of putting, it's sort of like a 529 for people who may never go to college. I was never expected to go to college, but it's for people with developmental disabilities so that caregivers and other interested people can put money in their name without violating Social Security disability income. And I wear these glasses because that's BUTFOR, but for adults with developmental disabilities, they could not have opened the cafeteria at UNC Wilmington this year. And these are the colors of UNC Wilmington. And as a matter of fact, there's a hell of a lot of businesses across North Carolina that could not function right now without this loyalty and the stickiness of some of these individuals who have some level of subject matter expertise, who make fantastic employees. And I'm only saying that because I meet a lot of these people through the ARC of North Carolina, which has satellite offices all over the state. And I say this because seeing the look in these individuals' eyes, especially with the employment crisis going on in this state, where somebody's given them an opportunity to have their own joy of achievement, is something that really just takes your breath. And so all of you out there that are involved in hiring people, don't hesitate to reach out to the ARC of your community and figure out how you can connect certain people with developmental disabilities, potentially with meeting some of your employment needs. This is a serious issue. I never imagined, and I used to be in charge of the unemployment system of North Carolina. I just never imagined over 18 months that we could go from an unemployment crisis to an employment crisis, to the extent of which now you're seeing signs that don't say help wanted or inquire inside. Signs are now saying we hire immediately. Other signs that says, if your service is slow, please don't blame the people who chose to show up for work. And this is what we're facing. And I only say this with a level of passion because it's been very frustrating to me to get people in Raleigh to understand that my comments are not about Charlotte Pipe and Harris Teeter. My comments are about the fact that the largest business in this state is the state. The second largest business are the school systems. The third are the county governments, and the fourth are the city governments. When there's an employment crisis that's affecting business, it's also affecting our ability to provide essential services at the state and local level. So I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Well, we actually have, Charlotte has some great nonprofits working, to help connect employers with folks
Right.
with developmental disabilities, with Asperger's syndrome.
Right.
We've got some cafes that have been opening that are being fully run by teenagers and adults with disabilities. So that's definitely near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure a lot of other people on this. So thank you for speaking out. And
Well, let me give credit. We would not have an ABLE program in North Carolina, Achieving a Better Life Experience, where people can put money away, not affect their Social Security income, and it grows tax deferred. But for the Wright family, WRIGHT, from Biddy and Bose in Wilmington, the coffee shop, they're the ones that got
Mhm.
ABLE started in North Carolina 6 years ago.
that's awesome. So when in Wilmington, you guys know where to visit.
Yeah. They'll probably be coming to a town near you. Listen, I appreciate you sharing your stories earlier, and just remember what I said 15 minutes ago, that we are hoping for the best, preparing for the worst, but just remember that no one ever passes away as long as somebody, living person, remembers who they were.
Thank you.
Yeah.
With that, let us recite our 5-way test. Of all the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the
Is it the
truth?
truth?
Y'all unmute. Wait, we're gonna go back. Everybody got to unmute. I want to hear everybody.
Jenny,
Can't
you
be
can
listening to
unmute
me and
everybody,
Kevin,
can't
me and Kevin and Jenny.
you?
All right. Of all the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the
the
truth?
Truth.
Second,
Is it
fair to
to
all
all concerned?
third, will it build goodwill and better
Better
friendships? We'll get it. We'll get it eventually, this last one. Fourth, will
Well,
it be
official
beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, all together now, will it be fun?
Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Folwell. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, folks.
Everybody be safe in the great snow of, winter
Ice,
2022.
Blizzard of
Yeah,
22.
AB.
Yes.
Strain your backs.
Everyone. Tom,
Bye-bye.
I'll give you a
Great
call in a
weekend.
couple minutes.
Thank you,
okay?
everyone.
Bye-bye.
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 Tom, I'll give you a call in a couple minutes. Where'd you go? There you go.
Okay, I look
Okay.
forward to it.
Thank you. Bye.
Did you grab, I haven't had a chance to read Shannon Tucker's comments. Is there anything? Oh, she's just talking to him. Okay. I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Bye, you two. Hugs to you both.
Hugs to you too.
All right, bye.
Bye.